Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now. Well, it's that time of the show when we take up all the stock-related queries sent in by our viewers. So let's go across to Kunal now for the first query that is coming in from Shelja. She wants to know whether she can buy Inox Leisure as well as Radico Khaitan at the current price, and she's a short-term investor. Kunal, what would your view be on this query?
I think it's an interesting chart, Radico. We've discussed, the brewery space, overall over the last few weeks, and Radico stands out to be one of the strong performers, not just on a short-term time frame chart, but more on a longer-term time frame. Now, frankly, to try and encash on the real potential for Radico, I believe that you need to have a time frame which is at least 6 to 12 months, if not more, for the stock, and then I believe that the real potential could probably be unleashed for stocks like Radico, because these stocks they tend to do pretty well for themselves over a longer term time span. So I would just need the viewer to probably tweak the time frame from being extremely short term to long term, and if that's the case, then I believe buying into Radico even at current levels of 1170 would probably be an attractive entry point, and then look out for dips of adding the stock closer to 1100 mark. These are two very important levels. 1100 also marks the stock just around that 50-day moving average. So both these levels are very important and specifically have a longer term time frame horizon.
Surely. And Vijay, I'm just going to come to you. We want a fundamental view. Ujjwal Kumar wants a fundamental view coming in on Cochin Shipyard. So what are you making of that stock?
Well, I think that it's a good company, Government of India company, and I am expecting that in this budget we are going to have a lot of allocation towards defense and especially Navy. So Cochin Shipyard, Garden Reach Shipyard and other shipyard companies which do shipbuilding, they would get some decent amount of orders. So again, at these levels, if somebody wants to get into, I don't think there's it's negative. You can get around say 330, 335, and I think that if the stock starts moving up, you have to hold it for about 6 months. It has the potential of going up to 400. So Cochin Shipyard and all the shipbuilding companies, as I said earlier, seemingly are good, and including Masgao Dock and others of this genre. So Cochin Shipyard is a good company, a stable company. No problem from here. I don't see much downside.
Right, that's the call coming in on Cochin Shipyard. That's something that you can look at buying into. Moving on to the next one then. This is coming from Aarti, who's a medium-term investor, and she wants to know whether a Navin Fluorine or Ami Organics warrant a buy at the current levels. Kunal, this one's for you.
Navin Fluorine looks to be more attractive, more stable. The stock is also on the daily charts, just on the verge of a yet another breakout. So what's the trend for Navin Fluorine over the last I think 6 months has been more of price consolidation. 4,000 has been the higher end of the range, and you've seen 2 attempts for the stock breaking below the 3,400 mark. But then both of these attempts were bought into, and you saw the stock actually bounce back exactly from its 200 moving average. So this seems to be a larger 600 point band or a range for Navin Fluorine. So I think out of the two, I would recommend Navin Fluorine as a buy, because if the stock actually breaks out of this 4,000 odd barrier for itself, it could lead to at least a 600 point breakout for the stock, which should be a substantial 15% upside from current levels. So would suggest a buy on Navin Fluorine that in comparison with the other stock which is mentioned.
Okay, Vijay, the next one is actually coming in from Harsh, and he's asking that he's bought in around alkyl amines at 3,000 rupees per share, and now would you consider it as a good buy? And he has a very long-term view of 10 years. So what is your suggestion on that?
Well, I think that long-term 10 years type view on such stocks is fantastic. I think this chemical sector has been growing at the rate of 10 to 15% CAGR, and the overall picture of the chemical space seemingly is very good. So these are strong companies, good fundamentals. So I think that this stock has the potential of going up to even 5,000. If somebody holds with a longer term perspective. But yes, it requires patience. So no major problem, buying at these levels.
Right. Moving on to the next query then. This one's coming in from Mahesh from Mumbai. And he wants to know about some good stocks from the SaaS and artificial intelligence space that he can buy with a time horizon of 5 to 10 years. Kunal, would you be able to recommend some stocks from this space?
I think I'll pass it on to.
All right. So, Vijay, would you have any recommendations here?
Well, I think that there are good, companies available which are into AI and other, IT companies. So I think that companies like Saxoft, companies like Zensar, FSL, these are good, mid-cap IT names, and these can be, nibbled into at these levels for a longer-term perspective. And I don't think that, with the rupee falling and dollar strengthening and the kind of business these companies and resilience these companies have been showing, new client acquisitions across the world. So these companies should do very well. So as I mentioned, there are good companies nowadays, as I mentioned a few. Mid-cap IT seemingly is good. Mindtree is also a very good company. Somebody wants to buy into a company which is into various products. So Mindtree is which also works into AI. But again, buy on dips is the mantra for these companies.
Okay, Kunal, we do want a technical view coming in from Sagar. He wants a technical view on Kotak Mahindra Bank. And now he shorted 25 lots of futures at around 2056 levels. So should he be booking profits, or do you see further downside as the structure isn't looking good is what he's saying. So what is your view coming in on that?
I think that on the short-term charts there is a lot of indication that many of these private sector banking names, the fall is getting arrested for these names. Now, it could probably get into a time-wise correction, or there is a possibility that these stocks can see a steady reversal for themselves, because eventually when there is a lot of demand for the stocks at lower levels, we expect that the stock would bounce back again. So my expectation is that probably wait and watch. If you can trail your stop losses, higher to almost 1850, 1860 mark, that could also be a good indication that probably the stock breaches past those levels. It's indicating that it's not a time-wise correction, but it's more of a support which these stocks have established at current zone. So I would sense that maybe wait and watch, but I think trail your stop losses from 2050 odd levels where you shorted. I would suggest that keep a trailing stop loss of 1850, 1860 on a stock like Kotak Bank.
Right, moving on to the next query then. Vijay, this one is for you. This query is coming in from Kunal Thakkar from Mumbai, and he wants to know the midterm as well as the long-term prospects of Godrej consumer products. What would you say?
Well, let me tell you, Godrej Consumer has a global footprint. So for the viewers and investors who do not know, Godrej has a lot of international brands in South Africa, South America, and Europe, and even in Africa. So it's not only what we see in India, but Godrej CP has a global footprint. So I think that this stock is some kind of a stock which can be bought into in corrections. So recently it touched it 200 DMA and even went below that around 865, 870. So I think that this can be nibbled into, and it's a portfolio stock according to me. The entire Godrej group is undergoing a restructuring, and there's I think that it would create a lot of value for companies which are undervalued. So I think that Godrej CP is also one of the good companies, good management, decent distribution channel across the world, and good brands. So I would be a buyer on dips in this company.
Okay, and Kunal, we have a query coming in from Manoj Kumar. Now he's asking whether it is the right time to enter HAL or Airtel. What would you be saying?
Bharti Airtel, of course. I think it's a good time to try and look at the stock at current levels. It's corrected from, I think if I'm not wrong, from 750, 760 levels to sub 700. The stock is also getting into a time-wise correction for itself. So both price-wise and time-wise, I think Bharti Airtel looks very attractive. And if you're specifically in from a a medium to long term kind of a time horizon, then I would definitely suggest a buy on Bharti Airtel, and then averaging at lower levels if the stock gets into a slight bit of more time wise price wise correction. For HCL on the other hand, I think you have to have a risk reward trade over here, because the stock in terms of price looks attractive. So at 1200, 1230, HCL looks attractive because it's come back towards its 200 moving average. But then also remember, I think stock like HCL has also been in the thick of news flow, lot of news flow, and the earlier momentum which the stock had shown in the month of June, July was on the back of a lot of positive news flow. So if you expect that to happen over the near to medium term, that some sort of positive news flow would probably keep on circulating for the stock price. If that happens, then you can expect the stock to rally up higher. Otherwise, what could happen is that the stock may continue to get into a time-wise correction and spend a lot of time at this 200 DMA. So it will probably test your patience as well in that aspect. So I would suggest that if there is an option, then I would suggest just look at Bharti Airtel at current levels and watch out for HCL maybe over the next 1 to 3 months. If the news flow starts coming positive for the stock, then it could be a good level to try and chip in.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Kunal. The next query is coming in from a stock in the construction space, that's HCC. So this one's coming in from Bharti from Gandhinagar, and she's a long-term investor, and she wants to know whether she should hold on or exit the stock. Vijay, what would you recommend? How does the stock look from a long-term perspective?
Well, I respect Ajib Gulabchand for all the things he has done. Even, they have taken up daunting projects and they have delivered. So the problem with the group was the cases which were, around Lavasa. They got into a project which had a lot of, legal implications. But slowly and steadily, HCC is getting it, as the air is getting clear. So I think that, it's a stock for the long haul, and we should wait. And if the cases are going away, HCC still has a decent order book, and there's a lot of value unlocking with Lavasa. I won't be surprised that Lavasa comes up with an IPO, because when we see such a flurry of IPOs happening and smaller companies coming, so Lavasa is a big project. So they can raise capital, and the company can be pretty much on track, and the kind of debt the company has on the books, it can do away with that if they come up with an IPO or they have other fundraising plans, because any good international investor would be interested in a project like Lavasa. When a lot of PE players across the world, Blackstone and BlackRock, are investing in smaller builders and smaller developers, I think Lavasa is a force to reckon with, and it's a great project. So HCC should be looked in with at least 2 to 3 years perspective. It is a potential multi-bagger. The downside is limited, the upside is humongous. So definitely hold on.
Okay, Vijay, actually I'm going to be coming to you. We have a query coming in for a long-term view for Securon Scientific. Ramanujam has purchased them at rupees 241. So should he be holding this? What is your view coming in on that, a long-term view?
Well, it's a good company into various animal sciences and even human sciences. But technically speaking, the stock's death cross happened around 237 and around 240 odd. So I think that since then the stock has been consistently coming down. So it's going to take a lot of time, because whenever we see fundamentals as well as technicals, and only when both the parameters are reasonably okay, we recommend a buy or a hold. So keep a stop loss, I would recommend. The low was about 144. You can keep a stop loss of 140, and if it goes below that, just exit or keep on holding it for a longer term. If you want to exit, there are very great good options available. There are companies like BASF you can buy. In the chemical space, I like a lot of companies. Navin Fluorine was discussed in the show. So there are great opportunities you can get into. Stocks like Venky's. I really like Venky's because it has a very decent market share in this space. So there are good companies on the metal space and the consumption space which you can buy into. And as I mentioned, chemicals I like BASF. So if at all the stop loss hits, definitely shift. So don't love the stock. It's not worth holding.
Well, all right, that's the call coming in from Vijay. Well, on that note, it's time now to shift focus to our rapid fire segment then. Kunal, we begin with you. The first one is coming in from Padma, and she wants to know whether she should buy Bajaj Holding by selling 100 shares of Mindtree for better growth prospects for the next 1 year. What's your call there?
It's a tough one, frankly, because both these stocks are quality. Bajaj Holding as well as looking attractive from long term. It's been a good wealth creator over the last, I think, 5 to 10 years. So is the case with Mindtree as well. The prospects look very attractive. So if there is any possibility where you can hold both, I would suggest go for that.
Vijay, we have Lalita asking about Bandhan Bank. She's bought in it a year back at 315 approximately. Should she exit it? Should she hold it? What's your view?
Well, I think that you should, exit smaller banks on rallies. And if at all somebody wants to be in banks, they should prefer HDFC and ICICI, as I mentioned earlier. On the smaller banks, I think it's going to be really tough for them to compete with the larger ones. And so many payment banks and, small banks coming up, Paytm, Amazon, and a lot of, transaction happening over UPIs. So I'm not very hopeful that these smaller banks would have a lot of work because, banks like Paytm also give you an interest on the savings you hold with them. So it would be really tough for Bandhan, the likes of AU Bank, and even, RBL, as I mentioned earlier. So better stay away and exit on rallies is the call.
Exit on rally is the call. Kunal, next one for you. Neil from Delhi is holding 120 shares of Indiabulls Housing at the rate of 260 rupees. He wants to know whether he should average or wait for an up move.
See, I think I would suggest to wait for some news flow to come out positive. If you're looking to buy or average again, it's important that you buy the stock at a momentum. So I would suggest that you average if the stock crosses 230 levels yet again. So 230 and above should be an averaging opportunity for Indiabulls Housing, not at current levels.
Okay, and with that, we're absolutely done with our query segment for today, but we'll be taking more of your queries tomorrow. Firstly, thank you so much, Kunal, as well as Vijay today, joining in with us and giving us your expert views. But with that, we're actually going to slip into a short break, and we'll be back with more on the other side.